Let's begin. It was strange how easily illusions could shatter, how quickly happiness could fracture into misery. For years, Marcus had thought himself the luckiest man alive, blissfully wrapped in the vibrant charm of his wife, Valerie. She was vivacious, magnetic, a woman who danced through life with dazzling spontaneity, captivating everyone around her. Valerie's laughter could fill rooms with warmth, her mere presence transforming ordinary moments into extraordinary memories. Marcus had fallen for her instantly, swept away by her allure, convinced they'd share a life filled with endless adventures and undying affection. But lately, Valerie seemed different. The sweet spontaneity he adored had transformed into a restlessness he couldn't quite name. It was subtle at first, the sighs when Marcus suggested a quiet night in, the distracted glances at her phone, the way her eyes sparkled with secrets she refused to share. But Marcus, hopelessly devoted, brushed these red flags aside, convincing himself it was merely a phase. Yet, deep down, Marcus sensed the invisible threads of their marriage beginning to fray, the connection they'd built slowly unraveling. Still, he clung desperately to denial, unwilling to admit their love was fading. It all came crashing down on a night that started like any other. Marcus had returned home late, burdened with exhaustion, longing only for the familiar comfort of Valerie's embrace. But as he stepped inside, he immediately felt the chilling unease of suspicion tighten around his chest. Valerie stood in front of their hallway mirror, an unfamiliar perfume lingering in the air, thick and alluring, but entirely foreign to their home. She wore an exquisite dress of deep crimson silk, a fabric Marcus had never seen before, clinging seductively to her figure. She barely noticed him in the mirror, focused intently on perfecting her appearance, as if preparing for someone other than her husband. "You're heading out again?" Marcus asked, his voice tight, heart racing beneath his ribs. Valerie paused, startled, meeting his gaze with detached coolness. "Just drinks with Jessica and the girls," she said dismissively, returning to her reflection. "At nearly 10, Marcus questioned, a tremor in his voice he desperately hoped she wouldn't notice. She sighed, exasperated, turning to face him with defiance in her eyes. "Doesn't matter, Marcus." The words stung, sharp and unfeeling, piercing through him with a clarity he couldn't ignore. Yes, it mattered. It mattered more deeply than Valerie could ever comprehend. But Marcus was too stunned to argue, watching helplessly as she slipped on a coat, blew him a detached kiss, and disappeared into the night. That solitary exchange haunted Marcus. He stood rooted to the spot, heart aching, overwhelmed by betrayal and confusion. It was the first fracture, the first undeniable proof that the woman he loved was slipping away. In the days that followed, Valerie's absences multiplied. Marcus spent sleepless nights alone, tormented by silence and unanswered questions. He wanted to confront her, demand honesty, but fear paralyzed him, the fear of losing Valerie entirely if he pressed too hard. Instead, Marcus observed, quietly collecting clues. Valerie's expensive taste escalated dramatically. He saw unfamiliar credit card charges for dinners, hotels, luxury spas, places she visited without him. Each receipt added to Marcus's growing dread, a heartbreaking confirmation of betrayal. Then came the final blow, a cool autumn evening. Drenched in melancholy, the air tinged with the bittersweet scent of falling leaves. Marcus had left work early, attempting to salvage whatever fragments of their strained marriage still existed. He carried home Valerie's favorite flowers, a bouquet of deep purple orchids, symbols of love and apology he desperately hoped would mend what was broken. But as he stepped through the threshold of their lavish suburban home, reality dealt him a ruthless blow. Valerie stood at the foot of the staircase, elegantly dressed yet again, but this time accompanied by someone Marcus never anticipated seeing in their home. Standing beside her was Jonathan Reeves, Marcus's business partner, confidant, and closest friend of over a decade. Jonathan's hand rested comfortably at the small of Valerie's back, a gesture both intimate and confident. Marcus froze in shock, the orchids tumbling from his hands, scattering petals across the marble floor like purple tears. The air thickened around them, suffocating and unbearable. Valerie's eyes widened briefly, her poised facade slipping momentarily into panic, before swiftly regaining composure. Jonathan cleared his throat, adjusting the cuffs of his impeccably tailored jacket, a smugness shadowing his features. "Marcus," he greeted smoothly, as though he hadn't just shattered the most sacred bonds of friendship and trust. Marcus's voice cracked, pain flooding his words. "Jonathan, what the hell is going on here?" Valerie stepped forward quickly, an expression on her face Marcus had never witnessed. Defiant, unapologetic, filled with contemptuous resolve. "Marcus, we need to talk," she said with ice in her voice. Marcus felt as if the ground beneath him had vanished. He managed a bitter laugh, empty and hollow. "Oh, I think it's pretty clear what's going on here," he spat, rage and hurt intertwining within him. Valerie's expression hardened. "I'm sorry you had to find out like this, Marcus, but surely you sensed our marriage has been over for a long time." "Has it?" Marcus's voice trembled, raw with disbelief. "Because I've been living as if we still meant something. Clearly, I've been a fool." Jonathan interjected with an infuriating calmness, stepping protectively closer to Valerie. "Marcus, please don't make a scene. It's better for everyone if we handle this maturely." "Better for everyone." Marcus snapped, fury breaking through his composure. "How long have you two been lying to my face? Weeks? Months? Longer?" Valerie's eyes flickered briefly with shame, but she raised her chin defiantly. "Long enough to realize I deserve more. Jonathan gives me excitement, passion, things you've long forgotten how to provide." Her words sliced through Marcus, each syllable a sharpened blade twisting deeply into his soul. His breath quickened, fists clenching until his knuckles turned white. Jonathan remained silent, observing Marcus carefully, arrogantly confident he'd already won. Marcus finally spoke, voice barely a whisper but charged with quiet determination. "You deserve each other," he said, eyes burning fiercely with unspoken promises. "But be very careful what you wish for. You might find the price of your desires much higher than you ever imagined." Valerie scoffed softly, dismissing his threat. Jonathan's lips curved into a self-satisfied smirk, and together they turned, leaving Marcus standing amidst shattered petals and broken dreams. As the front door closed, echoing through the empty house, Marcus felt the last threads holding his heart intact snap completely. That night, sleepless and tormented, Marcus meticulously reviewed every moment of betrayal, his mind sharpening with a cold, calculated clarity. The agony slowly transformed into something darker, more powerful, resolve. Valerie and Jonathan had underestimated him, their arrogance blinding them to the dormant strength within Marcus. If they believed he'd simply crumble, quietly accepting humiliation, they were gravely mistaken. The following days blurred together, a relentless cycle of anger, pain, and plotting. Marcus maintained an impeccable mask, attending work as usual, greeting Jonathan cordially, never betraying the storm brewing within. Jonathan, smugly oblivious, flaunted Valerie shamelessly, convinced he had already secured his victory. But behind closed doors, Marcus quietly began gathering evidence, financial records, transaction histories, discreet photos of their illicit meetings. He carefully documented everything, building an airtight narrative of deception. Yet simply exposing their betrayal wasn't enough. Marcus craved a deeper, more poetic justice. One afternoon, as golden sunlight streamed through his office windows, Marcus finalized a call with his lawyer, Mark Devlin, a ruthless negotiator known for his cunning legal strategy. Marcus had spent hours meticulously outlining his plan, detailing every subtle maneuver designed to dismantle Jonathan and Valerie's arrogant facade. Mark's voice crackled through the speakerphone, thick with curiosity and approval. "Marcus, you're absolutely certain you want to proceed this way? Once we initiate, there's no turning back." Marcus gazed silently at the framed photograph of himself and Valerie on their wedding day, smiling blissfully at a future he now knew was built on sand. "I've never been more certain," Marcus replied coldly, determination etched into every word. "Very well," Mark acknowledged, respect evident in his voice. "Let's make them regret ever crossing you." As Marcus hung up, a sense of dark satisfaction settled over him, replacing heartbreak with iron resolve. Valerie and Jonathan would soon discover the true cost of their betrayal, and Marcus would ensure they paid dearly. Over the next few weeks, Marcus meticulously wove his revenge, patience becoming his greatest weapon. He maintained flawless normalcy around Valerie, never allowing suspicion to taint his interactions. He even greeted Jonathan warmly at meetings, quietly savoring the knowledge that soon, the smug confidence in Jonathan's eyes would be extinguished forever. Valerie, meanwhile, indulged openly, reckless and extravagant, convinced Marcus was too weak, too passive to challenge her newfound freedom. Marcus silently endured, smiling politely through dinners Valerie attended perfunctorily, detached and bored, her mind clearly elsewhere. Then came Valerie's ultimate act of arrogance. Marcus found divorce papers carelessly placed on the kitchen table one evening, waiting alongside a half-empty wine glass. Valerie sat opposite him, calm and imperious, watching his reaction with predatory curiosity. "Let's not prolong this charade," she stated flatly, eyes glittering with impatience. "We both know it's time to move on. Sign the papers, Marcus. It's better this way." Marcus lifted the papers, feigning surprise, briefly scanning her demands. Massive alimony, significant shares of his company, lavish property settlements. Valerie smiled triumphantly, clearly anticipating his submission. But Marcus only smiled coolly, his eyes devoid of warmth. "Of course," he said smoothly, surprising her with his calm acceptance. "I'll have my attorney review these immediately." Valerie's brow furrowed briefly, suspicious of his compliance, but quickly dismissed it, arrogant enough to believe Marcus would quietly surrender. As she left, triumphant and assured, Marcus poured himself a drink, eyes fixed firmly on her retreating figure. Valerie had played her hand, completely unaware Marcus held the final card, a prenup signed carelessly years earlier, a document she'd long forgotten in her careless assumption of control. Marcus raised his glass in a silent toast, determination blazing in his eyes. The wheels of revenge were now irrevocably set in motion. Valerie and Jonathan had declared war, and Marcus was fully prepared to watch their carefully constructed worlds burn. Their arrogance had been their downfall, and soon they would understand precisely how badly they had underestimated him. In the weeks following Valerie's arrogant demand for divorce, Marcus maintained his careful composure. His outer calmness masked the deep currents of bitterness and betrayal beneath. Valerie, blind with confidence, never suspected Marcus was orchestrating her downfall behind his quiet demeanor. She indulged openly, flaunting her newfound freedom. Every day became a new opportunity to spend lavishly. Designer clothes, upscale restaurants, and luxurious weekend trips became Valerie's norm. She displayed her purchases with pride, assuming Marcus would soon be financing her extravagant lifestyle. Jonathan, equally arrogant, carried himself as though he'd already replaced Marcus entirely, in business and in marriage. His smug glances during meetings made Marcus's blood boil beneath his professional facade, yet Marcus held his composure firmly. Every insult, every betrayal, sharpened his determination to exact his revenge perfectly. As Valerie's lavish spending continued, Marcus patiently observed, deliberately allowing her to sink deeper into a financial trap. She'd carelessly forgotten the prenup she'd signed without hesitation when their love was young and pure. Now, Marcus anticipated with satisfaction the exact moment Valerie would realize she'd dug her own financial grave. The day arrived sooner than Marcus expected. Valerie, dressed impeccably in designer attire, entered her lawyer's elegant downtown office, eager and confident. Marcus, informed by his attorney, awaited the outcome calmly at his office. Her lawyer, Thomas Elroy, a respected attorney accustomed to difficult divorces, greeted her professionally but cautiously. As Valerie explained her demands, Elroy's expression grew increasingly concerned. "Valerie," he interrupted gently, adjusting his glasses, "are you aware of the prenup you signed?" She waved dismissively. "It was standard paperwork, right?" Elroy cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable. "Not exactly. Marcus's prenup specifically states that if you initiate the divorce without valid grounds, You waive any claim to alimony, his assets, or shared property beyond what you personally brought into the marriage. Valerie's confident expression faltered, replaced with panic. What are you talking about? I never agreed to that. You did, he replied softly, turning the contract toward her. Valerie's heart sank as her eyes scanned the undeniable text. Her world spiraled quickly, realizing she'd trapped herself with her own arrogance. No, there has to be something we can do. Valerie pleaded desperately. Thomas shook his head, sympathetic but firm. I've spoken with Marcus's attorney. They won't renegotiate. Legally, it's airtight. Valerie stormed out, desperation overshadowing her arrogance. Marcus began receiving frantic calls and messages, Valerie attempting to manipulate, bargain, and even beg. He ignored every plea, savoring the reversal of power. Marcus's revenge was just beginning. Jonathan's reckoning remained unfinished. While Valerie spiraled into financial ruin, Marcus turned his attention to his former friend, ready to deliver justice to the man who had destroyed their friendship and his marriage. Marcus moved quietly, steadily tightening the web around Jonathan. At work, Jonathan maintained his arrogant posture, oblivious to the storm approaching. Marcus discreetly gathered evidence, financial irregularities, emails revealing professional misconduct, and discreet surveillance footage of clandestine meetings with Valerie during working hours. Each day, Marcus sat across from Jonathan in meetings, smiling politely, the rage and betrayal simmering beneath the surface. When Marcus finally had everything he needed, he scheduled a private meeting with Jonathan, under the pretense of reviewing business strategy. Jonathan entered Marcus's office confidently, entirely unaware that his life was about to unravel. Marcus calmly slid a folder across the polished mahogany desk. "Have a look," he said quietly. Jonathan's arrogance vanished instantly as he flipped through the pages, proof of his deceit laid bare. His face paled, hands trembling slightly. What are you going to do?" Jonathan stammered, panic creeping into his voice. Marcus leaned forward slowly, eyes cold and unyielding. "I've already done it. The board is aware. Your professional career is finished, Jonathan. You're done." Jonathan's voice cracked. "Marcus, please. Save it." Marcus interrupted sharply. "You chose betrayal. Now live with the consequences." Security escorted Jonathan from the building an hour later, his disgrace public and undeniable. Marcus watched silently from his office window, feeling vindicated yet strangely hollow. Meanwhile, Valerie's life collapsed swiftly. Her lavish spending left her deeply in debt. Her social circle, sensing the scandal and her diminished status, quickly abandoned her. Even Jonathan, disgraced and jobless, severed contact, blaming her for his ruin. Desperate, Valerie showed up at Marcus's doorstep, late one rainy evening, humbled and broken. "Marcus, please," she whispered, rain soaking through her coat. "I've lost everything." Marcus stood unmoved. "You threw everything away, Valerie. You chose this." Her tears flowed freely, voice trembling. "I made mistakes, I know, but can't you find it in your heart to forgive me?" Marcus sighed, his voice firm yet gentle. "Forgiveness, perhaps, but trust is broken forever. We're done, Valerie." He quietly closed the door, leaving her standing alone in the rain, facing the brutal truth of her actions. Months later, Marcus rebuilt his life, stronger, wiser, and genuinely happy. The betrayal had reshaped him, but not destroyed him. He thrived professionally, respected more deeply than ever, admired for his integrity and strength. One quiet evening, Marcus attended a charity gala, a celebration of community and resilience. Across the glittering ballroom, he glimpsed Valerie. She stood alone, diminished yet serene, watching him quietly from afar. Their eyes met briefly. In her expression was regret, acknowledgement, acceptance. Marcus simply nodded, a subtle gesture of peace and finality. He then turned back to his companions, smiling warmly, fully embracing the promising future that lay ahead. The past, heavy with betrayal and revenge, now rested quietly behind him. Marcus had reclaimed his life, not through vengeance alone, but by moving forward and finding peace within himself.